The rain had started as a whisper against the windshield and turned into a roar within minutes. Elena Ward gripped the steering wheel tighter as the highway blurred ahead of her, taillights smearing into red streaks through the water. It was nearly midnight, and the interstate felt endless. 3 slick lanes cutting through darkness, illuminated only by sporadic overhead lamps and the occasional passing truck. She shouldn't have been driving. That was the thought that circled her mind as thunder cracked somewhere in the distance. She had stayed too long at the hospital. Her father had finally fallen asleep after hours of restlessness, his breathing uneven but stable. The doctors had said the surgery would be in the morning. "Go home," the nurse had insisted gently. "You need to rest." Rest felt like a luxury Elena couldn't afford. Medical bills were stacking up. The small bakery she ran barely covered rent. Insurance had denied half the claims. Every red notification on her banking app felt like a countdown she couldn't stop. A truck roared past her left side, spraying a wave of water across her windshield. Elena flinched. The wipers struggled to keep up. Her phone buzzed in the passenger seat. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Probably the hospital. Probably bad news. Her pulse spiked. Without thinking, she glanced down for half a second to check the screen. That half second was enough. When she looked back up, the traffic ahead had slowed abruptly. Brake lights flared like warning flares in the storm. "Elena!" she gasped to herself, slamming her foot on the brake. The tires screamed against wet asphalt. The car skidded. Her heart lurched violently as the steering wheel jerked under her hands. She tried to correct it. Left, right, too much. The back end of the car fishtailed. The world tilted. Headlights spun. Metal collided with a sound that felt like it split her in half. The impact was brutal. Airbags exploded. Glass shattered. Her body snapped forward and then back, as if thrown by invisible hands. The car spun again, then slammed hard into the guardrail. Silence followed. Not true silence. Rain still pounded, engines still roared in the distance, but a muted, underwater silence inside the crushed vehicle. Elena tasted iron. For a few seconds, she couldn't tell which way was up. The world flickered in and out of focus. Her ears rang violently. Something warm trickled down the side of her face. She tried to move. Pain erupted through her ribs like fire. Her breath came shallow and sharp. The steering wheel was bent. The dashboard blinked erratically. Smoke or steam curled faintly in front of her. "Help," she tried to say. It came out as a whisper. Cars passed. Some slowed, some didn't. Rain poured through a cracked side window, cold and relentless. Her vision dimmed. Headlights appeared in the rearview mirror of her broken world. One car slowed, then stopped. It was sleek, dark, expensive. The kind of car that didn't belong on a storm-slashed highway at midnight unless it had somewhere important to be. The driver's door opened. A tall man stepped out into the rain. He didn't hesitate. He ran toward the wreck. Inside the car, Elena's eyelids fluttered. She heard distant shouting over the storm. "Call 911!" Footsteps splashed in puddles. Strong hands yanked at the driver's door. It didn't budge. "Damn it," he muttered. His voice was deep, controlled, but edged with urgency. He moved to the passenger side. The door creaked under force. Metal protested. He braced himself, pulled harder. It gave way with a violent jerk. Rain flooded in. The man leaned into the wreckage. His suit jacket was already soaked, clinging to broad shoulders. His hair, dark and perfectly styled minutes ago, now fell slightly over his forehead. His eyes scanned her quickly, calculating, assessing injuries the way someone trained in crisis would. "Hey," he said, firmly but not harshly. "Stay with me." Elena blinked. His face blurred, then sharpened. He was familiar. Had she seen him somewhere? On a magazine cover? A news segment? He reached carefully across her body, checking for obvious bleeding, ensuring the car wasn't about to ignite. "Don't move," he said. "I'm going to get you out." Her voice trembled. "It hurts." "I know." His tone softened just slightly. "I've got you." He cut the seatbelt with something sharp, perhaps a small tool from his keychain. He moved with efficiency, but not recklessness. Every motion was deliberate. Lightning split the sky. Thunder rolled. Another vehicle stopped behind his, hazard lights blinking urgently. Adrian didn't look back. He slid one arm behind Elena's shoulders and another under her knees. His strength was controlled, precise. He lifted her as if she weighed nothing. Pain shot through her body and she cried out weakly. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "Just a second." He carried her away from the wreck and into the rain. She could feel his heartbeat through his soaked shirt, steady, unshaken. The world tilted again as he moved quickly but carefully towards his car. Someone shouted, "Sir, the ambulance is on the way." He nodded but didn't stop. He laid her gently across the back seat of his car, removing his jacket and pressing it against her side to control bleeding. "Stay with me," he repeated. Elena forced her eyes open. She focused on his face. Recognition hit her through the haze. "Adrian Cole?" she whispered weakly. "The billionaire, the tech magnate whose face dominated financial news, the youngest conference keynote speaker in the state, the man rumored to be ruthless in business and unreachable in person." He stilled slightly at hearing his name. "Yes," he said quietly, "but that doesn't matter right now." Her vision dimmed again. "Don't close your eyes," he commanded, leaning closer. "What's your name?" "Elena." "Okay, Elena, I'm Adrian. You're going to stay awake. Look at me." She tried. Rain hammered the roof. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Adrian reached for his phone with one hand while keeping pressure on her injury with the other. "This is Adrian Cole," he said sharply into the line when emergency services picked up. "Highway 17, mile marker 46, single vehicle collision, female mid-20s, possible rib fractures, head laceration. She needs immediate trauma support." The dispatcher's tone shifted instantly on recognizing his name. He didn't notice. He didn't care. His focus never left her face. "Why did you stop?" Elena murmured weakly. He hesitated just half a second. "Because you needed someone to." Her lips trembled into something that almost resembled a smile. The sirens grew louder. Blue and red lights flashed through the rain. Paramedics rushed towards them. Adrian stepped back only when they physically had to take over. She was conscious when I called her out, lost focus twice, breathing shallow but responsive. "Are you family?" one paramedic asked. Adrian paused. He looked at Elena's pale face. "No," he said. Then, after a beat, "But I'm not leaving." They loaded her into the ambulance. Rain continued to pour as Adrian stood there, soaked, watching the doors close. His driver approached cautiously. "Sir, the conference?" "Cancel it." "Sir, it's $1 billion." "I said cancel it." His tone wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The driver nodded and stepped back. The ambulance pulled away. Adrian didn't hesitate. He got in his car and followed. Because somewhere between pulling her from Twisted Nettle and hearing her whisper his name, something had shifted. And for the first time in years, a meeting worth millions felt insignificant compared to the fragile breath of a stranger fighting to stay alive. Hospital lights were always too bright. Adrian sat in a quiet corridor outside the emergency operating room, water still dripping from his cuffs onto polished tile. He hadn't changed. He hadn't even fully processed what he'd done. He had been on his way to deliver a keynote speech at the Global Innovation Summit, an event that would secure international funding and shift markets overnight. Instead, he was sitting in a hospital at 1:37 a.m. waiting for news about a woman he had never met before tonight. His phone vibrated relentlessly. Assistants, investors, PR teams. He silenced it. Footsteps approached. A doctor stopped in front of him. "Are you Mr. Cole?" "Yes." "She's stable." The tension in his shoulders released in a way he didn't expect. "She has 2 fractured ribs, a mild concussion, and several stitches," the doctor continued. "She was lucky." Adrian nodded once. "Can I see her?" Briefly. He followed the doctor into a recovery room. Elena lay still beneath white sheets, oxygen tubing resting lightly beneath her nose, a bandage wrapped around her forehead. Her skin looked pale against the hospital lighting. But she was breathing. Adrian stepped closer. He didn't know why he felt relief this strong. He had seen acquisitions fail without blinking. He had shut down companies without hesitation. But seeing her chest rise and fall felt like something monumental. Her eyes fluttered open. They found him. "You stayed," she whispered. He exhaled quietly. "I said I would." She studied his face as if trying to understand why a billionaire would be sitting in a plastic hospital chair at nearly 2 in the morning. "Your conference," she murmured. "Not important." She gave him a faint, disbelieving look. He surprised himself with a small smile. "How's your father?" he asked. Her brow furrowed. "How did you—" "Your phone was on the seat. The hospital called twice." Her eyes filled with sudden panic. "I need to—" "Already handled. I called the hospital. Your father's surgery is still scheduled. I arranged for a private nurse tonight." She stared at him. "You did what?" "I made a few calls." A few calls. The understatement of the century. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain this time, but from shock. "You don't even know me," she whispered. He looked at her steadily. "Neither did the rain, but it still hit you." Silence stretched between them. Not awkward, not forced, just heavy with something unspoken. Elena swallowed. "Why?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was uncomfortable. Because seeing her alone in that wreck, fragile but fighting, had reminded him of something he had buried years ago. "My mother died on a highway, car accident. People drove past before someone stopped." Elena's breath caught. "I wasn't there. I was at a meeting. I chose the meeting." The admission hung between them like a confession. "I don't miss chances like that anymore," he said quietly. Elena reached for his hand without thinking. He froze, then gently allowed it. Her fingers were warm despite everything. "Thank you," she whispered. Adrian looked at their joined hands as if he'd never seen something so simple before. He nodded once. Outside the hospital window, dawn was beginning to rise, and somewhere between broken metal and hospital light, something far more dangerous than a car crash had occurred. A connection neither of them had planned, and neither of them could ignore.